Good morning. I'm Darlene Flynn. My day job is I'm the director of the Department of Race and Equity for the City of Oakland. Some of you know me from that role probably. But in this capacity, I'm here as a technical volunteer working on the Racial Equity Committee to be able to bring my 20 years of equity and anti-racism work experience to ending homelessness in Alameda County. So I'm very delighted to be here with you today. On your table, you will see that there's a sheet of paper that doesn't really have a title on it, but it's got boxes. Is anybody wondering what that is? It's really important information, so I want to point it out to you. It was at least it was at my table. I picked it up. I said, yeah, there it is. This is our racial equity framework, and Chloe will be virtually presenting about this framework later. But I want to draw it to your attention as we center the work, this conversation today, because this is where it comes from. These are very intentional framework pieces, and they're somewhat organized, they're not somewhat, they are organized in a way to help us position ourselves to intervene and interrupt systemic racism, which is embedded in everything in this country and is extremely apparent in the overrepresentation of African-American residents in homelessness and other people of color as well. So when we see those kinds of disparities, we know that systemic racism is at work. You either believe that systemic racism is at work or that Black people are just fundamentally inferior. You may have heard some of that messaging, around in the history of this country, but it's either there's something going on with the system, and we know that Black people are not fundamentally inferior. We've got the genetic studies to show it, as well as lots of other evidence that brilliance and capacity for successful lives exists in all races. It is not racialized, and yet the life outcomes are racialized when it comes to homelessness. So this is a heavy lift, and we wanted to share with you a little bit today about what the effort that the COC is doing to interrupt systemic racism in homelessness and homeless services. And they've been very diligent and very intentional. So we've got a few slides to open this up. Mainly, we're going to be talking about the work that's been done to seat the full Racial Equity Committee. We used to just be a work group, and the COC decided that racism is so important in addressing these issues that we needed to be a committee. So the committee has now been formed, and both myself and Tanisha are here with you today from the committee. There are other people in the room as well that are on the committee, and some of them up here on the panel, I'm sure. So we're going to be going over racial equity liaison roles. This is part of the infrastructure of addressing systemic racism and homelessness services for the COC. And then there will be more conversation toward the end, presented online by Chloe Green. And I guess Shate is going to be there too. I was stepping in the room. Oh, fantastic. So you'll be able to tag team. Okay, fantastic. So we'll be handing it off in a minute. We did a very formal process to pull people into this committee. It had been a small, very tight-knit work group before its transition into a full COC committee. And so we did the whole process of seating a committee. All the committees went through a similar process to this one. And we vetted and invited people to come in and vetted them for preparedness and willingness to do this work. And it's worked out really well. We had an overwhelming response, and almost all the seats are full. All the seats on the committee are full. And I think all the liaison roles are full as well, or functions are full as well now. So this has been a really encouraging process for me to observe and be part of, because it shows the enthusiasm and the support for doing anti-racism work in this context. And that doesn't automatically happen, as you all know. Some locations are not super excited about taking this on. But we know that if we don't address disparities in homelessness, we will not end homelessness. When you have this kind of overrepresentation in homelessness, if our goal is to end homelessness, and I believe it must be to end it, then we have to address the racial disparities that are contained within it. So this is what our org chart looks like. I am not going to go through this step by step, but what this demonstrates is what you see on the large white boxes on the left. Those are the committees. Those are the standing committees. Hopefully I didn't make that happen. So those are the COC standing committees in the larger white boxes. And then the offshoots of those boxes name their liaisons to the Racial Equity Committee. And the reason that the liaisons are color coded is because one of them is a voting member, the other is the alternate, but they both will be invited to all of our meetings and will be as involved as we can get them to be, because we have plenty of work to do. And so this liaison role is important because they go back to the standing committees and make the connection to equity work in those committees, because it is not actually possible for us to do effective anti-racism work from a distance over there in the Racial Equity Committee. It's going to have to be embedded in all the other activities and in all of the activities that the COC does. So those liaisons are critical to making this function in a way that will transform our work into more impactful outcomes. So we're putting a lot of effort into making sure that we're bringing them into work that was ongoing and that they are going to benefit from that work and be able to be a valuable contributor back in their main committee participation. And then over here on the right side of the screen, you see the committee, the voting seats for the committee itself. So those are the people that are not liaisons. They serve on this committee as their primary committee. Some of us do serve on more than one committee, but some of us, for myself, this is the only one I serve on. So this is what our structure looks like. And a lot of work went into putting this together so that we know that we will be able to grow the work. It's developmental being able to address systemic racism. We weren't socialized to even maybe notice that it existed. So it has to be very intentional if we want to do something about it. And this chart kind of represents that intentionality. They have specific roles. Oh, these slides are new to me. I just saw them for the first time yesterday. I'm sorry, I'm a little slow here. Oh, you can see here the areas that are going to be covered on the panel. This is my transition slide. Pardon me. It's early for my brain. So what we're going to do is follow this up by hearing from some liaisons, some folks that have taken on this responsibility and the roles that it involves. And I'm going to turn it over now to Tanisha. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Tunisia Owens. I'm the Policy and Advocacy Manager at Family Violence Law Center in Oakland, and I am the co-chair of the Racial Equity Committee. So who we have here is a panel of experts that will talk to us about their experience serving on the Racial Equity Committee as racial equity liaisons. And we want to just have everyone introduce themselves, and we have some guiding questions. Let me see if the guiding questions are here. This is actually talking about the racial equity liaison. I don't need to read this to you, but because we are trying to embed racial equity in the process in our entire continuum of care, it's very important, this role that they are playing. And so we want them to talk to you about their experience. And we'll start with Ms. Shelley. Okay, I don't think that mic was on, but okay.
Thank you, Mo. I appreciate you so much. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Good morning. It is a pleasure to be here with you again. I am Ms. Shelley Gonzalez, and I am the Racial Equity Liaison to the HSHP, Housing Stability and Homelessness Prevention. That is the standing committee that I serve on, and the purpose and the function of this committee is like most of the committees, you'll notice the roles and responsibilities include apply a racial equity framework in order to advance fairness and justice in all that we do. So all of our committees are picking up this racial equity part of the business in our roles and responsibilities. For me, the function of our committee is basically logical. What do we do to prevent the homelessness? How do we get ahead of it? Is it a bridge fund? Is it a loan? Is it a deposit issue? Is it back pay? What is the issue that is causing this homelessness? If we can get there, then maybe we can reduce the numbers that are already out there, if we can get ahead of the game. So a lot of our roles and responsibilities also include analyze inflow data to determine populations at greatest risk of experiencing homelessness, along with key causes and drivers of homelessness. Why? What is happening? Is it fiscal? Is it financial? Is it, or have we, is it medical? Have we lost our job? What is the issue that has gotten us from stability to destabilization? Somewhere, something happened there, so that's where we would come in. And I think that pretty much sums up pretty easily what we do. And I don't know who else to pass it to, but the next question, because I'm only doing number one, yes? That was our practice, number one. Okay, very good. I'm Miss Shelley Gonzalez, finishing number one.
Why, thank you, Ms. Shelley. My name is Sunita Garrett. I am a housing housing justice advocate for many, many years, and I've been doing navigation for the last couple of years. I was a landlord liaison, so I've been in housing, residential services, all that for years. I am a committee member of because it's written differently on the board.
We practice one way.
Right, but
It's a little bit different from the
the
practice.
way it's written is
us
different.
some
So
grace.
it's the standards, compliance, and funding. As a direct service provider, as a
Okay,
direct
all
service
right,
provider, my goal is to understand where it's going, how it's getting there, who's using it, what it's being used for exactly. And number two is my question. How do you see the opportunities and challenges to applying racial equity? The challenge is that when you're looking standards, funding, and compliance, we're looking at percentages. We're looking at points, not people. So the challenge is seeing the points, the numbers as actual individuals and not a group of numbers or a percentage of numbers. Understanding that those percentage of numbers represent individuals. Most of our information comes from the PIC count, correct? Who are the people that you're interviewing? Exactly, not the number of people that you're interviewing, not the demographic group of individuals that you're interviewing. Who are you interviewing? That's where the challenge is, and that is also where the opportunity lies to expand that question right there. Who are we helping? And I'll leave it right there.
Awesome goodness. So you guys have seen my Clark Kentness today. I'm Patrick Anderson. This is really interesting. So about a year ago, how I even came into this space is that I joined the Everyone Home, what they call the Everyone Home Leadership Academy. And yep, that came from a sister that I was working with in Alameda. And I was telling her, I said, you know, I've been here about 4 years, 3 years, and I can't find any information. And I want to advocate because I've been going through it with being unhoused and just trying to find information. She sends me a text. I respond to it. Next thing you know, I'm on board. And then, you know, as I'm looking for work, applying for jobs, et cetera, I didn't get invited to be a part of these committees. So I'm on about 5 different committees. Last year, from April, and it started from April last year to this year, the HMIS committee, the PIC committee, and now the Racial Equity Committee, the NOFO committee, and the Leadership Committee. And from that, you know, I've never been in this space before. You know, I'm from Oakland. What's that? Oh, and the nominations committee. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's so you've seen my name across the board, and I've met a lot of people just being a part of these committees and hearing how all the numbers and to what the sister was saying, it's about the people. And I've been using, and I'll say it out loud and I'll keep saying it, I've been using AI for good. And I've been using it to solve a lot of problems that a lot of the governments have not been able to solve. The biggest, my thoughts about being on these committees is that, you know, the biggest way that you can make an impact, and this is for everyone that's in every agency right now, is to hire people with lived experience. Hire, keyword is hire. On that note, Michelle has, is Michelle still here? There she go, Michelle. she's been advocating for me, and Jonathan's here, and all kind of folks are here. So it looks like I'll be starting with Alameda County around May 15th or so as a housing inspector, kicking down doors, checking things out. But it's the work that I've done. And if we kind of look a little deeper, not just bringing people with lived experience on board of these committees, but asking the question of what did you do before you were in the situation of being unhoused? Because we didn't just become unhoused. I grew up in public housing, and it just, it just dwindled from there. And I wasn't part of any systems. I know about HMIS. I know about anything, and this is from me being a youngster to, my mid-20s. I had to do it all on my own, and I learned. And so now I'm here to teach it, because there's a lot of youth out there that are, it's horrible. It's horrible that our youth are not able to find housing. Even, there's kids that's living in their cars trying to get an education. If you don't know how that feel, I'll tell you how to feel, because I went through it. I enrolled in De Anza College when I got here just to see if I would be able to get housing. A lot of the developers and a lot of the people were saying, well, we're not bringing on board students, and if we do, it's like 3 times the rent. 3 times the rent. 3 times the rent is almost, what, $9,000 to move in somewhere, $6,000? Ridiculousness. So I end up being even homeless again. Hiring more people with lived experience because they will make an impact. AI said, absolutely. I asked the question, wouldn't it make sense? And I'm in this. Would it make sense for HUD's Continuum of Care to hire people with lived experience in homelessness and human rights advocacy in order to propel efforts in eradicating homelessness? AI said, absolutely. Hiring individuals with lived experience in homelessness and human rights advocacy with HUD's Continuum of Care program can significantly enhance efforts to eradicate homelessness and prevent individuals from becoming unhoused. This approach aligns with the principles in inclusivity, human rights, and effort policymaking as recognized by the international commitments and guidelines on homelessness. So there it is. Thank you. Yes, there's a lot.
Before you design it, ask us. You make the policy, invite us to the table. Why are we already there? We can tell you what's going wrong right now. Ask us. We've been in the trenches. We already know. We just clean up well.
Yeah, this, like I said, this is the Clark Kent right here. This.
Didn't I just say to you, you work with the school district, right? And don't you all get parent input?
Oh, McKinney.
Thank you very much.
McKinney Vento.
PTA, all that.
We pay it forward. We've already been in the trenches. So we become caseworkers, case managers. We keep the human in the human services aspect of this work,
Yeah.
whether it's through education, whether it's through being on these different committees, whether it's representing persons with lived experiences. I went to college. I'm not supposed to ever be homeless. On two
Right.
coasts. I have children. I'm a mother, right?
Right.
You imagine all this cuteness. I can be homeless. But that is the state of things. So how are we getting there? How is it that we can be college educated and work as many hours as the law allows and still parent and still function and
Right.
still not make the ends meet? There is a severe breakdown. And if you're not asking the persons with lived experience, where is it breaking down? Then what are you doing?
Right.
If you aren't communicating and having us at the tables, when we talk about racial equity, when we talk about breakdowns, then what are we doing? What are we really solving? We're getting lots of money funneling and we keep saying, well, next year we need some more money.
Yeah.
Well, next year we need some more money. Yeah, but
Where is it going?
where's it going?
Yeah. And for the youth, let me say this. As someone 40 years ago, when there was no name for us, period. It was just, we were homeless, period. We were too old for youth services because we were 18, we weren't foster children,
We
aged out. We were not
aged out.
emancipated, so we couldn't get any help from them.
That part,
We would go to adult shelters, we're too young.
that part,
So we were on the street, period.
that part.
And we had to march to Sacramento and say, look, you are going to recognize us. You are going to give us some help, and you are going to do something for us and stop putting us in jail.
We're making it impossible.
Right, stop putting,
for-
stop locking
we
us up
could
because
never take
we
another
can't get,
step forward.
we're not eligible for services. I was so happy when I came back to California and heard the word transitional age youth. I was like, come on now, name it.
Somebody
Name
paid
it.
attention.
Yeah,
Somebody
name it.
pulled it out.
Name it.
That's
Name the
right.
issue so it can be solved. Name it.
You can't fix a lie. Don't have us fixing a lie.
Right.
We want to fix what the actual factual is.
Yep.
That's why we have street teams. That's why we have persons with lived experiences, people in the trenches. Ask us. It's very simple. Ask us. If you have X amount of dollars to spend, we're going to show you how to spend it. We live on a shoestring budget, right? And still maintain, right? In the name of stabilization, to be stable. Out to you human beings who are in the trenches, who are stressing these interdepartmental breakdowns, these agency over. How do we represent several different agencies? Aren't doing it in a joint effort. Are who we represent and what we can do. I'm hoping that you leave here today feeling this new zeal and this new zest. We are going to make a difference. We have some dollars coming in. We have options and opportunities. Let's do something with that. But
Oh, they can't hear.
The mic.
Oh,
online.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then we went and we got passionate because we still want to encourage the people that are doing the work. You know, it wouldn't be right for us to say, you know, that everyone is the bad guy and you guys are not spending the money appropriately. What we're saying is ask us because we are solution based. We've already been there and done that. Ask the youth. Ask Ray. Ray, shout out to you because we watched Ray grow up in 4 years. So shout out to us from everyone home that started from the very first cohort. We've been through some things, yes. So we are here. We can answer. We can do the solution. So we don't want to monopolize. This is supposed to be racial equity presentation. Thank you for the grace. We appreciate you.
Real quick, just to give a shout out to St. Mary's.
St. Mary's.
Let me say this, St. Mary's is one organization that works with every other organization and every other agencies to ensure that seniors have continued services. So let me say this, if a senior leaves emergency services and they no longer receive supportive services there, they receive automatically those supportive services from St. Mary's until the day they are no longer here. They feed them every morning, every afternoon, every day, 7 days a week, not 5, 7 days a week, 6 days a week. Well, it was 7 once upon a time. But and during COVID, when people had to eat outside, St. Mary's made it a point, and I was a temporary. They made it a point to put up a tent just for the people to eat outside. When it was raining, it was too windy for them to be outside. They made considerations for them to be inside so they could eat during COVID. So they made a way, and they continue to make a way. And I just want to give them their flowers right here and right now.
I want to share a story that people I don't hear it being talked about, and that's the tech industry, the accountability and the responsibility of the tech industries. I became a part of the tech industry by default. You know, I couldn't find work in Oakland. You know, in my right after college, I went to Laney College, and I spent my own money. I didn't take out a loan or anything. And I ended up getting a job in San Francisco. So one of my sisters called me up and she said, well, you know, you're smart. You know, there's an advertising firm that's looking for a guy like you. I was like, done. I got the job on the spot. I wanted to move. And in that position, I was the only Black person in the room. It didn't bother me though, because I was representing Oakland. I was representing Oakland and San Francisco in the tech industry. Moving forward, the organization ended up being, they merged with another company, and I wanted to move up the ladder. I was told by my manager that if I wanted to move up and, work with the other departments, that, the minute that I messed up, that I would be fired. I took that to heart. I said, great, noted, done. I continued to do my work. And when the .com industries came in, we gave them, I did what I was supposed to do, what I continued to do. By doing that, they actually hired me. They wanted to hire me. They said they wanted to hire me when they first met me. And they said, no, I heard that you quit, that you're quitting. I said, yeah, I put in my 2-week notice. It's like, oh, that's great because we want to hire you as soon as we met you. They end up doubling my salary overnight. I didn't even know how to respond because I was paying $600 rent in Emeryville, and most of my colleagues and everyone that I worked with was still over in San Francisco paying double that amount for their rent. When everything burst and bubbled, everyone was hit. Black, white, Asian, Latino, because that's what our community conscribed of. And that's where I really saw the homeless issue in Oakland, San Francisco emerge. We have to call out these tech companies because no one's calling them out. They're hiring and then they're firing, and they're the ones that end up homeless. They're the ones that, and they won't come out because they don't know that they're homeless. They don't know that living on the couch or living on their friend's couch is considered homeless. They don't know about the systems. And they're continuing. Google is like one of the biggest contributors here, and no one's calling them out. I heard that there's one guy that bought a truck with his money, bought a truck, a white truck. It's sitting in the parking lot of Google right now. That's where he lives out of. That's disgusting. That is disgusting behavior. So we got to call these people out. We got to use the technology. We got to get employers in this room and be accountable for their actions. Tesla, Amazon, Google, we need to call them all out. And if nobody will, I will. I'll do it. I'm doing it, actually. I'm doing it. I'm using AI. I'm not into the fear. I worked in Hollywood for a while. I saw the disparities out there. It's just as bad. It's just as bad in LA County as it is here. But LA County is now taking charge using technology to prevent homelessness. They're actually interconnecting all their services to make sure that people might need just $1,000, maybe $300 just to catch up. That's kind of all it needs. And you can't call your friends. The first thing they say is call your friends and family. Friends and family ain't gonna help. They're probably in the worst situations you are. So it's up to us in these committees. And I'm down to advocate too. I'm down to advocate more for people to be on these committees because it's the only place that you're going to learn behind the scenes on all the money that's in place and all the money that's being used and see, because it's disheartening to hear how much money is constantly being thrown. And we saw the audits. I mean, I get the emails all the time. I know how much money is being spent, but where are the people that need the money the most to get themselves to where they need to be in life, if not in the Bay Area? And we're now global. Everybody sees what's going on here now. It's the cat is out the box. So we have to take charge, each and every last one of us. Thank you for that.
I want to thank our panel for their expertise. And we're going into a break.
No, we're going to extend this.
We're going to extend the time? Okay, so. Okay.
We're rearranging time right now. It was so worth it. Thank you.
It was definitely worth it. We have Chloe, who is going to go over the racial equity framework. Is she still online? Okay.
I am. Can folks hear me okay?
Everyone knows we will be taking a break at 11, and then we will be going into our state of the COC. Much to Mo and Simone for giving up some of their time to speak and share so that we can, very important discussion. We really.
Okay.
Thank y'all. Can people in the room hear me?
Yeah. You can handle the slide.
Okay.
Do you want me to?
So hello, everyone. My name is Chloe Green. I'm a technical assistance provider supporting your COC's Racial Equity Committee. And I'll pass it to Shatay to introduce herself.
Hello, good people. My name is Shatay Jones, Director of Housing and Community Services for Alameda Alliance for Health and a Racial Equity Committee voting member.
And I'll just start off with saying that what I think the panel just did was really embody what the Racial Equity Committee and the Racial Equity Framework is about. As a COC, you all have committed to racial equity being a core value, but it's really important that as a community, you support each other in moving beyond just adopting the language and putting it into practice. And I think those were a lot of the things that the panel members were speaking to. And the framework is intended to support you all in doing that work as well. So just really quickly, the racial equity framework is intended to serve as a guide to approach your COC committee work together. COC membership and committee should use this framework to support you in really grounding the work that you do together in racial equity and justice. So again, a lot of the things that the panel was speaking to, how do we put these things into practice? The framework has principles in it and ways of thinking about these things that can help you all to really apply racial equity and justice and ground your work and approach in racial equity and justice, and get to a place to where you really are, you have a homeless response system that is supporting everyone in resolving their homelessness quickly, justly, and very importantly, with dignity and with deep care. So the framework is set up to support you all in doing that work that you have committed to doing and that you're already in the process of doing, but this will just support you in strengthening your approach to that work. Next slide. And so the Racial Equity Committee drafted this framework, but it is intended to be a framework for the entire COC, and it captures what the committee feels are the essentials that really need to be present and considered when you all are doing your work together to ensure the prioritization of racial equity is at the core of your work. This is a living document, though, and what we mean by a living document is that while it was drafted by the Racial Equity Committee, the hope and intention is that the COC wraps their arms around the framework. Everyone's excited about the framework and committed to it, and is committed to putting it into practice. So as you all work together, the framework will continue to grow and to change as you all grow and change. And we're still, again, it's in the draft form. So there will be opportunities for COC members in the community to provide feedback on the framework before it's finalized, but we'll talk about that at the end. And the framework can be used at all phases, all phases of COC committee work, whether that be planning, design, implementation, evaluation. The framework covers all of these pieces to really, again, help you ensure that you are embedding racial equity principles in your work, and to also evaluate whether your work is truly furthering your COC's racial equity priorities. So again, having this as a core value, how are you measuring and accounting for the fact that that is happening and being put into practice? The framework has some tools in it that can support you all in doing that work. And as the lovely Ms. Darlene pointed out earlier, folks in the room have some guiding principles on their tables. People who are attending virtually, I will drop the principles in the chat in a second, but these are the 9 guiding principles that make up the framework. And it is presented this way in a visual, in a circular way to really represent the fact that racial equity work is not linear. You will be leading with equity design the entire time. You will need to check implicit bias the entire time, being accountable to Black and Indigenous and people of color and people lived experience the entire time. And so this will always be interconnected pieces of the work that should be considered at all aspects of your work together. And while it was again designed to support you all in your collective work, the principles also serve as a self-reflection point too. So really thinking about for yourself as a person, how can I check implicit bias? What is the work that I can do individually to honor the journey to racial equity, justice, and healing, and to decenter whiteness so that I can better my work outside of and within the COC. And so I will turn it over to Shatay to talk a little bit more about the embodiment of these principles and what that looks like and feels like for her.
Thank you so much, Chloe. And thank you again to the panel for all of your expertise and adding, as someone who was born and raised in Richmond, California, and who mom was on Section 8, for me, it really matters that these principles are not just something we talk about, but like we say in my family, we be about, right? So this part is really for you to be able to activate. Think about the principles that we have listed here on the table. Think about which ones kind of resonate with you. For me, in my current place where I am, I think about these principles around decentering whiteness, being able to hold ourselves accountable to data, and not just data from the quantitative portion, but also the qualitative portion. How are we telling the stories about the people that we are in service to? How is the health plan looking at those particular resources from a place of health equity and joining with our COC and people with lived experiences to shape these integrated systems of care? So now we have an activity for you all, a quick activity. We know we want to go to break, but we see on your table, you'll have these, this sheet right here. We want you to go ahead and turn to the person next to you, and for the folks online, be able to look at it, pick which one that resonates with you. Here are some reflective questions that we've been thinking about. What are your thoughts about this principle? What's important about the principle? If your community was committed to this principle, what would change look like? There isn't any wrong or right answers. It really is about your own critical self-reflection and thinking about the systems that you are a part of and have the power to influence. You'll have 3 minutes to do so, such a long time. And then for the folks online, we'll have one person report out online, and we'll have a courageous soul in the room report out here, okay? So again, go ahead and take a look at those, see which one resonates with you, and the questions are on the screen. We did away with the Jeopardy music, but someone to hold us together for 3 minutes, right?
I'll just add really quickly too that, again, as Shatay said, it's a self-reflection. So just take a moment to yourself. You don't need to answer all of these questions. You can pick one of them to reflect on. You can also, because we recognize that a lot of this information is wholly new to folks. So you can also reflect on it, read it, and if a question emerges for you, we're also interested in hearing that question too. So for the virtual attendees, there's a Jamboard link for you to share your reflections. I believe there are sticky notes in the room for people who are there to reflect. But again, you can just put a question as your reflection, or think about one of these questions here.
Until I watched documentary last night, I was talking on it shows you what
Oh, how's my minutes?
dismantling white supremacy was before. And it's back to the 18. That was information I didn't have in school. And so if we start, I believe everyone That says, no, what? Homelessness.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we're back in the room with each other. All right. If you can hear me, clap once. All right, good. Thank you. Thank you, good people. I know that was a short amount of time with some robust conversation happening in the room, and I am sure online. I'm gonna kick this over to Chloe. Chloe, do you have anyone who would like to report out from online?
Is there anyone virtually who wants to share their personal reflection after looking at the principles? And if so, can you please share which principle you are reflecting on and then share your comment?
Hello, am I muted or not?
No, we can hear you, Francis.
We can hear
Oh.
you.
I typed my message in, so I wasn't sure if you would want me to speak. I think the principles are wonderful. They're a little bit on the windy side. They seem to have a lot more ambition than they do actual guidance. They're really, but I would like to see more of actual advice like Patrick's, as in hire people of racial vulnerability, and this is the sort of thing we need. I don't see how these principles can stand on their own, but I'm hoping that someone will explain more.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much, Francis.
for that reflection, Francis. And it's actually an important one, because one thing we didn't say is that the way that the framework is set up, there are the 9 guiding principles, but then there is a full list of things to consider and that is more of the actionable items piece,
Good.
along with resource links and tools and things like that. So I will actually drop the draft framework link so people can see that as well. But I appreciate you noting that so we can lift that up for everyone.
Good. Thank you.
And how about in the room? I'm hearing we have 30 seconds to report out. So we have a courageous soul in the room who want to share a reflection. All right, I see you, Ms. Patricia.
Hi. Hopefully those in the and I'm gonna thank you.
Can't hear.
Hopefully those in the virtual room can hear me, and I'm going to respond because of the way you just said it realistically, that we have 30 seconds to provide information. And what this wonderful team of souls said during our brief time was, this framework is so thorough and has so much content and information that for us to it's impossible for us to be able to respond and have a meaningful conversation that can add content to this conversation in those seconds. And so what is real is that we can't take several hundreds of years worth of trauma and be able to provide answers in one meeting, but this is ongoing work. And I know we have the committees. So how can we help the committees integrate the work that they're doing on a regular basis, so that when you do have an opportunity like this one, we have something to build upon. But we're not going to change it overnight, nor in 30 seconds. Thank you.
Good feedback. Thank you everyone for generating so much buzz and enthusiasm about the conversation. You're absolutely right. It's not something that we're going to solve or be able to respond to in just a short amount of time. nor should we rush it. We want us to be able to make this document a living and breathing document. Everyone will also receive the full framework as well as guiding principles for you to take back to your own personal time, for you to also take back to your organizations and ask, who do you want to be? How do you want to show up? What's at stake for yourself and the people that we serve if you don't, right? And really have that true ongoing conversation. Also, we created a Jamboard. So if folks would like to share their ideas via the Jamboard, we'll make that available to you as well. And I'll pass it back to Janisha. Thank you.
I know we're over time, so I just want to thank everyone for giving us your time and attention. And I really want to, again, thank our panel of experts. You guys did a great job. Y'all community organizers, right? So we're going to take over the world. I know we can. And I just want to say, please do dig into this racial equity framework. It has been a labor of love and we've done a lot. So I'm going to turn it back over to our organizers for today.
Thank you so much. And thank you again to Mo and Simone for helping us to give a little more time. This is not as much time as this conversation deserves. I was just saying with Darlene, if we could have a whole second day where we did nothing but continue this. So we do have a break and we will be back at, let's say 11:12 to extend it a little more. And then we will be doing our State of the COC presentation. During the break, please feel free to continue this conversation. We will leave the Zoom open, so if you want to continue the conversation in the chat, we're really grateful to all of you for participating and see you shortly.